Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. It is the final day of play here in NLC Division 3. Lower bracket finals day. Let's do this. I'm Enix. I'm joined once again by my good friend Neon. How are you doing? How are you doing, man?
Doing good tonight. How about you?
I'm very, very ready for this. For those of you that haven't been following the season or playoffs particularly too closely, we have got one hell of a series on our hands for you all this evening. Invul Lotus winning their way through the winners bracket, falling to eventual Division 3 champions Verdant, going up against Karolinerna Black, the underdogs making the miracle run all the way through the lower bracket, winning 3 straight best of 3s in a row. Can they make it 4, or are the Invul Lotus boys going to be able to find their way through? A little bit of more history on the teams. Obviously, Invul Lotus, as we mentioned yesterday, um, winning their group with a 10-2 record. And Karolinerna Black coming third in their group, Division 3.4, ending tied on game score with Bifrost Academy, advancing to playoffs, having won a tiebreaker. So Karolinerna Black living on the edge of elimination all the way through. Can they overcome this one final hurdle? That is the question.
It's gonna be an interesting game. On the one hand, you have Invul Lotus who are just winning through everything. They got a reality check yesterday through the games against Verdant. It has been close games, but Verdant just keeping the upper hand, and they're probably set to also just win their way through a promotion tournament. For Invul Lotus, it's important to get their focus back to forget about yesterday's season, or at least learn of the mistakes you've made yesterday. And for Karolinerna, it's literally just keep winning. They're currently performing a miracle run through the lower bracket that probably every Fnatic fan is dreaming about right now. And it's looking good what they're doing right now. And as long as they can keep doing that, there's not a single foot to set wrong.
Yeah, and we will see if they can keep doing that, like we mentioned, Carolina winning through in that lower bracket, taking on a number of teams, beating Espegard Rocket Core in the first round, Espegard Main in round 2, and Chaos yesterday evening in round. So a lot of wins, only dropping one game out of the 7 that they've played in the lower bracket. So a very, very impressive run that they've managed to put together for themselves. On the other side of the rift, obviously it is Invul Lotus taking the 2-1 victory over Espegard Main in the upper bracket first round before falling 2-0 to Verdant yesterday. The Verdant loss, interestingly, being the only series defeat that Invul Lotus have suffered so far this season.
I mean, yeah, this is maybe also down to the lack of series in the normal group stage, because those games are considered best of ones and just
Best of
two
two.
played in a single day. Um, but yeah, it has been impressive what the Invul boys have been doing so far. It probably hasn't been expected that the Lotus roster is performing that well. Hopes are high that they can, of course, carry the pride of their organization into the promotion tournament into two. But first of all, it's time to focus on today. And Karolinerna, of course, they are the underdogs, but it's literally the last series of the whole tournament, and anything can happen. They have the advantage of playing a lot more than Invul, having the feeling for the lower bracket, and Invul, it's just down to how they deal with the pressure situation.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Carolina are putting an incredible run together and are technically coming into this series as the underdogs, but it is a final. It is the last game of the season. So, do underdogs really matter? Does anything that has gone before bear any weight on today? No, no. I can't wait to get into this series. And Invul Lotus, coming from the upper bracket, were given side selection for game 1, and they have opted to go for red side.
Interesting decision. We have seen it yesterday in the NLC how that can backfire, because red side is generally considered to be the weaker of the two sides right now, because there are so many power picks that you would like to secure in the draft, which is mainly possible if you play blue side. Red side is usually perfect for counter picks, and that makes me think that Invul Lotus have something prepared that we're not expecting, that Karolinerna is not expecting as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, we will not know what either of these teams are going till get into Champ Select. Champ Select, we are relatively close. I believe teams are just getting themselves and ready. And then, yeah, then everything will be underway. All of those finely laid plans are going to be on and see which of these teams has the better preparation. The one thing to note, and I know you mentioned how Karolinerna will have been playing more games over the last few days, so should be, in theory, maybe a bit more up. There is also, as a result of them playing those extra games, Invul Lotus having the extra information and the extra scouting on their tendencies and on what they are doing within the games to pick.
Yeah, that certainly helps. At the same time, you have to say that Karolinerna is usually using a system in their games that is reliable, that always works. I think their biggest weakness is that they rely on enchanters in the bot lane a lot. So if there is any potential that Marcusa picks something really aggressive, they automatically have an advantage in the lane for the early Drake fights, and probably also a lot of snowball potential down in the bot lane. We're gonna see how Lenore and Marcusa are trying to use that.
Yeah, it'll be a really interesting matchup to keep track of, and something that will be quite interesting to keep an eye on during the draft as well. Obviously, starting on the side, K5 are going to have their pick of the litter when it comes to the champions. Other than those first 6 which get banned, they can have whatever they want. So if there's a Yuumi left open, or one of those other power picks, I think we can expect that to get taken up pretty.
Ah, yes, the Yuumi, our favorite pick. We'll see if she's gonna be picked up again. She has a pretty high pick and ban rate all across board in pro play, in solo queue, and she's just, as I said yesterday, really annoying to deal with, and she's also very reliable. Can amplify carry pretty hard, so she's also a really strong pick, and we're gonna see how much prior she has today. But there are also a lot of other enchanters that are not necessarily in the shadow of Yuumi.
And we are in draft, ladies and gentlemen. Just let me change over the overlay as my guess, unfortunately. I put round. There we go. Everything, it should be nice and fixed up. And it's Taliyah, Bel'Veth, Azir. First 3 champions taken away.
I'm not surprised that Taliyah and Azir are banned. You don't want to give them to Loftishan. And I'm also not necessarily surprised that Bel'Veth is banned. It is a pick that can be really annoying. It is a pick that has a lot of risk in the early game, but scales extremely hard, has some really big snowball potential, and just tends to ruin you if you set a foot wrong in the early game. So it's probably better to get her off the board.
Rounding out the ban phase, we see Diana Seraphine added to the Bel'Veth from Invul, and the Yuumi actually banned by Karolinerna, taking the Ashe away as the first pick. Interesting decision there.
I'm surprised that Yuumi is just off the board and that Ashe is the first pick. Ashe is certainly not one of the top tier AD carries on this patch. But keep in mind, it is possible for Ashe to be flexed into support. Most recent Ashe game in the LEC we have seen was an Ashe support game.
Wasn't that Targamas? Well,
it was Targamas for G2 Esports, and it worked out quite well. You might say that's because G2 Esports played it and they're just the best team. You might be right about that.
You could say that. But yeah, speaking of that bot lane aggression, sorry, that you mentioned earlier, we have a Draven here for Luna and a Viego for Slice. You at least would imagine Slice. That Draven's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's really volatile, and you have a Renata who can, in theory, keep him down, just throw him away from her own team. It all depends on how you execute the lane, and K5 cannot set a foot wrong in the early game. They really have to be careful, especially when the jungler is Diego, who's also a really volatile jungler, and can just kick the door in, bring the Herald, cost you the turret quickly, and just make sure that this Ashe isn't going to enjoy the game anytime soon.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how Invul play with even Olaf picked up a Karolinerna. Could go either top or jungle, I imagine, in the Karma pair with Draven. Powering that Draven pretty much whatever he wants.
Yeah, Karma's a really good pick here. I would imagine that he might opt in for a tank or a bruiser top lane. It's not exactly the most mobile. Except, of course, if there's an Ornn, because Ornn is in literally any comp. It will be easier to pull these off. And it is a lot easier to pull the Viego off just because you have a Karma who can speed you up at any point in the game and just gives you a big speed advantage. It makes you a lot stickier and makes it a lot tougher to deal with you. That is especially interesting looking at Olaf, who will fall off in the late game. I'm also looking forward to which jungler K5 are counterpicking to that, because the Olaf in the jungle is probably not going to hold up with Viego.
No, you would imagine not. And as we see the second ban phase come to a close, Swain and Mordekaiser removed by the board Lotus. Whereas the Ahri and Victor, that's not a V, that's a Victor, taken away by Karolinerna, but Loftition locking in his Akali.
I like this. Loftition makes a statement. He says, I want to kick in the mid lane, I want to kick in the enemy back line. And it is met with a Lissandra, most likely, which I do not like. Honestly, from a spectator's perspective, an assassin matchup mid lane is always more interesting. But since this is not about entertainment, but about a place in the Div 2 promotion tournament, the Lissandra is of course a more reliable pick. It is a reliable counter pick into Akali and many other assassins, so it is understandable why they pick Lissandra. I still don't like it, but it's gonna be effective.
Rounds out the comp for Karolinerna. Jax quickly picked up Aldo in the top lane. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Drafts for Game 1, Division 3 bracket final. Going to take second place in the division and burden in that promotion. Finding out very, very... what do we think about these drafts then? What are your...
Basically, you have K5 who drafted in a reliable and standardized manner. The only exception from this is probably the Olaf, who, to my surprise, goes into the jungle. Because he's going to try to run in your front line, or make it past them and run in your back line. Invul Lotus don't have the biggest front line. That is also one thing I have to state here. But 13 comp is a lot more volatile and looking to make plays, looking to kick in your door and just wreck your backline while the front line is just left there standing, staring, and completely powerless to do anything. Especially the Jax pick I find is to be very interesting, and look forward to see Ronaldo play on that one. Jax is an up-and-coming pick in the current meta, and I expect to see him at Worlds as well, and at EU Masters. He is kind of a sleeper pick, because he's strong into many matchups, but people are just too afraid to pick him right now, because there are so many reliable top lane picks. Want to pick instead, if you just want to have a stable top lane.
Well, is Gnar one of the matchups? That is the all-important question for all of the Invul Lotus fans right now.
It is definitely a strong matchup for the Jax, because he can just... He gets bullied in the early game, but he has a reliable engage onto the Gnar whenever he's in his mini form, and he has a stun really counter-strike that basically has no counterplay in combination with the lead. With the Viego, I imagine that there is probably a lot of resources going into top lane, but Jax will make it through lane if left alone as well.
Yeah, but I am very, very excited to see how this one. Seeing Loftian on the Akali ready this season, and he has absolutely dominated. It's going to be interesting to see. Bot lane matchup, also potentially very, very exciting. As you mentioned with the Draven, Daka and Magic Pants going to have to navigate this one very carefully. You don't want to get that Adoration stacking and that Draven snowballing. He'll then be given the potential to completely take this game by the scruff of the neck.
That's most likely what it's going to try to do. Draven, of course, another volatile pick. The only disadvantage is that this leaves Invul Lotus without a reliable pick that will scale up no matter what. Jax can be held down the early game, Viego can be held down in the early game, Kali can be terrorized by Lissandra, and if Draven falls behind in the lane, it's not going to be a happy Noxian, and that is something that Invul Lotus have to respect, of course. But if they get into the late game, Jax will terrorize side lanes, Akali will terrorize the backline, Viego will keep everyone busy, and Draven, we know that Luna is a pretty big fan of the champion, can just terrorize truly everyone, and that's probably what his plan is against Daka today.
You have to imagine so. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now all locked in. Game 1, the team comps are decided. We just have those 3 pesky spectator delay minutes to tick, tick, tick through. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to win. There is a prediction live. Is it going to be a Lotus win, or are Karolinerna Black going to draw first blood in this series? My money... Oh, I don't know. It's a difficult one in my head to call, because as you mentioned, the Karolinerna comp is a lot safer, is going to scale a lot easier, and is theoretically a lot more consistent. But if Invul Lotus can find an inch in this early game, they can explode onto the Rift, and Karolinerna could find themselves significantly behind before they realize it.
Basically, they will explode if they get the chance. If the Ash or the Renato oversteps just a little bit, those 2 champions bot lane are kind of mobile. Of course, Magic Pants has the hostile takeover to his disposal from level 6 onwards, which can also backfire for Invul Lotus if they engage at the wrong point. And he has a handshake, which can take care of the Viego or the Akali, or possibly also the Jax, but there are so many threats from the side of Invul Lotus that you have to consider every single step that you make, because if you make one wrong step, you're gonna get killed, and if you're gonna get killed once, you're gonna get killed multiple times.
Could you say every move they make, every step they take, Lotus will be watching you?
Absolutely. Can't you see this game belongs to Invul Lotus?
That's the level we're starting tonight at, ladies and gentlemen. That's the level we're starting this tonight. So imagine after 3 games, this is going to be great. I'm so excited. I've been building this one up all day in my head, and yeah, I'm ready to go. This is going to be fun. And I'm glad we've got some volatile picks that could give us an incredibly bloody game. Because let's be honest, as casters, as spectators, that's what we want to see. We want to see some violence. We want these teams to be going at each other's throats from minute one, trying to get every advantage they can, and yeah, just tearing up the ring.
Absolutely. No LCK games right here.
We may have had the LCK
we're
champ select music. No LCK gameplay, please.
Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, 15 seconds to go on the spectator countdown. Any last final thoughts before we get onto the Rift to kick off this series?
Honestly, I still have difficulties getting over the Olaf pick. We know that Olaf is pretty strong in the top lane right now. Pretty decent pick. Somehow he fell a little under the radar, both in solo queue and in pro play. But yeah, he's not entirely capable of matching that performance in the jungle. His pick rate there is a lot lower. His win rate is still lower, despite the lower sample size of games, which kind of point at the fact that Olaf jungle is just not a high priority pick right now. And looking at the matchups he has to play, which are just a lot easier, a lot more comfortable for him on top lane.
And we have a pause straight
Probably
away.
not a
Sorry.
surprise. Fnatic pause buff, anyone?
Marcuso ganked IRL to kick the series off. That's just what you need.
Perfect. Gives me time to catch up because my game hasn't loaded yet.
Shall I pause at 6 seconds and get going?
Just go to live. I will catch up.
Okay, I'm at live. That is all mighty, mighty fine. But what we can tell straight away, we see the Mountain Drake. I believe that, unless I'm getting trolled by Spectator Bug, we're going to see a Mountain Drake as the first one to hit the Rift. And you have to imagine, with the volatility of these team comps, the extra resistances from a Mountain Drake could actually be really important.
Definitely so. But this also means that Citron has to spend a lot of resources into the bot side, into Daka Magic Pants in this early game. If Slice matches these resources and puts him into Runner and Guza, we already know that
We
top
are
lane is going to be...
back to live.
Yeah, in that case, top lane is going to be really boring, which is just what Ronaldo wants. And we will have a lot of action on the bot side, which is what Leonard wants, because he on the Straven has a strong early game and can just terrorize the Daka in case anything goes wrong for K5.
We are seeing a bit of a group, bit of cheese potentially here for K5, as I do have a little bit of spectator bug there, but it seems to have fixed itself. K5 walking into the Invul topside jungle, spotting out Slice, gonna get a couple of wards down, keep an eye on where this Viego starts, and attempting to track the early pathing.
Vision is the name of the game. We have seen it yesterday, burdened with brilliant vision control.
Citron gonna catch this ward, gives the ward kill over to Starduster.
Minions have spawned.
It's important to consider who's gonna have, who needs the XP advantages.
Yeah.
And I think Starduster can do a lot with an XP advantage, especially when left alone. Especially since Ronaldo has the weaker early game, is a lot more prone to just get harassed out of lane, since Gnar has the huge advantage in this lane.
Yeah, and it's gonna be the Gnar starting off with the small advantage there in the top lane. But fairly standard starts, both junglers on the top side. Leonard gonna get those axes spinning up. Start to get ready for his first cash in, hoping he can find that one pretty nicely. A little bit of trading from the supports, but it's nothing too.
Not yet, not yet. Yeah, Marcusa takes a little bit more damage than he wanted. Of course, Stack and Magic Pants have a lot of range to their disposal. I gotta admit, I don't know exact value of Magic Pants attack range, but it's 550, okay. But Daka has more range than Uza. He has more range than Lana, which is something he can play around. Which is one reason why he can play the early lane safely. He's using the damage so far. Isn't overstepping even a little bit. And we're gonna see that up.
We see an early roam down into the river from Rotyu. Getting a little bit more early vision, just covering off that Scuttle Crab, trying to predict where Slice is, and just provide more information to his team. You see the ward in the river from Invul Lotus just timing out as well. Could potentially open up a pocket for a play onto the Lotus jungler.
Even if it doesn't open up a play, it still spots out Slice. You get the information that he is in the bot side river, and you know so many things that Invul Lotus don't really want you to know. You get so much information. Will pause the game. Oh. That is what you will do with the knowledge.
Rotyu on a bit of a disconnect. We did see the Scryer's Bloom popped, and Slice going to grab the ward and the Scuttle Crab on his conquest towards the bot lane. Optician's starting a roam as well, which could be something, or it could just be to attention away. But we are 3 minutes 20 into the game. How are the lanes playing out compared to how you expected them to?
Absolutely nothing different. Rotyu is slightly down in CS, which surprises me a little bit. But considering that he had a disconnect, he's probably having issues with his connection, which has not been confirmed by the in-game chat so far. But it is possible that he's struggling with his latency, and therefore probably has a harder time CSing. Loftian so far his job of not getting bullied out of lane, looking for some prio, looking for some potential roams. Now there's also disconnect for Citron. Yeah, junglers so far farming, looking for vision control and opportunities to get something done, but so far Slice a little bit ahead in pace, nothing too surprising considering plays Diego traditionally has a really strong.
A summoner has reconnected.
Connect hit. A5 mid lane. Hopefully. We got all the technical difficulties out of the way. Theory stuff. Didn't get all of the player-based technical difficulties started. God, we gotta fire that producer, right, guys? The amount of mistakes on the iconic Invul segment. Oh, how could we be allowing that? Definitely wasn't me. But the ready check has been thrown out by K5, so it does look like we're back into game.
Here's to hope that this doesn't break the flow for any teams, as it can be a moment breaker, especially for Citron. It's probably about where to gank. It's probably
And
third.
Back live. Like, I'm having issues, essentially.
Yeah, the game is not so.
There we go. I fixed it. We're fine. I'm at 3 minutes 10. Shall I wait for you?
Just go to live.
Okay, awesome. Feedback through this. We've seen all of this. Slice takes the ward. The pause happen.
A summoner has disconnected.
Why can I not advance past? There we go. We're all good. We're back to live. We're back in game. Karolinerna black with a 200 gold. Nothing really significant. Citron moves towards bot lane. Slice pathing through the mid, going to grab the double. Will the Olaf be able to find any? Moving in now, Magic Pants finds the handshake. It's just Marcusa going to get locked down. Exhaust is thrown through, and the standard side is beautiful from Lunar. more issues going to happen, but it's going to be the Invul Lotus bot lane getting out scot-free. Lenar stepping forward, finds the kill onto Magic Pants, traded back though onto Daka. And it's Daka who gets the first blood, so I'm not sure the overall worth of that really for Lenar.
Yeah, he has lost a lot of stacks through that, which is not exactly optimal. I think Lenar has extended his limits a little too much and has paid the price for it. Quite literally, he has lost a lot of potential gold. But in the end, it's still a kill to his name. And the Magic Pants probably has extended his limits a little bit too much as well.
But picking up the early serrated Dirk, going to allow the Draven a lot extra damage. Magic Pants running in, helping Rotu get the crash in, allowing the Lissandra a pretty pace. The S lead's starting to develop now in.
I mean, the bot lane CS advantage is mostly down to Daka not recalling as quickly as he necessarily could. Just push out the lane. Lonar's now taking the wave under his turret and is basically back up to the numbers again. In mid lane, it's a little more interesting because Rotu has now pulled the teleport, is back into lane, already has a 10 CS advantage while Loftition is still on his way to base. Rotu lets wave in the mid lane reset.
You see Karolinerna actually going for this dragon. Lining the objective up early, going to be a relatively safe secure. Mountain Dragon.
There's not a lot of reasons for Slice to try to contest that. His bot lane isn't in the best state yet. They will just keep slow pushing, trying to threaten the enemy bot lane as much as possible, trying to poke them low so they can't stay under their own turret without the threat of getting
Magic Pants caught by the stander side. He's going to take a couple of axes to the face, but the handshake comes through. Lunar definitely winning out on this trade, though. All of the damage coming through Raven. Lots of the stacks spinning. But Citron and Slice going to face check into each other now. Going to give Slice the advantage, though, in the Blade of the Ruined King. Being
that is a bad trade by the Invul Lotus bot lane, but it's also a bad trade for Citron. He's just naturally losing out to Slice, because Slice has the pickaxe, while Citron only has the Sheen, which is an interesting choice in my opinion.
Does now grab his half-bound axe.
Yeah. All things point towards the Trinity Force, which is interesting itemization in my opinion. Looking forward to how Citron's final build is going to look. This is the first step that I really think is optimistic, and I like the approach.
But why not? It's game one of a best of three. You might as well take the risk. You are slightly ahead. Try and push your team's advantage as much as you can. Is pretty much even. About 100 gold currently, the Karolinerna. And I feel like it is going to stay relatively close. On off the next objective.
I mean, it's not really a lead, it's just like when... Remember the good old school days when you got $10 for lunch while the other kids only got 5?
Double beautiful Gnar to knock away the Jackson. It's flash away, a Heartbreaker comes through, and Loftition going to secure that one with a perfect execute. Invul Lotus bringing 3 into the top lane, but they're going to have to face 3 from the K5 side if they do choose it. Slice going to face check into Citron here, and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes wide. Loftition lands the Shuriken flip, but I don't think...
You don't like my stories, like my analogies.
Hey man, Invul Lotus don't like your analogies. They wanted to kill people.
Yeah, Stardust are going down there. Hasn't really anticipated how many people are in the top side, and the Lotus are just trying to generate a lead. They have to. Their comp is built entirely around it, and this is going to be an interesting situation for the next objective for the Herald.
We may well see a fight around this Rift Tower, and it is stolen away by Citron, the Karolinerna black jungler, going to pick that one up. Invul Lotus just forced off of the objective. in the 4v4. And nice play from K5 to be able to in and take it away.
Yeah, the big issue at hand is that Slice doesn't have his Smite upgrade yet, while Citrin does. So he has double the Smite damage, has absolutely no issues stealing that one away, and it just hurts if you're on the side of Invul Lotus. It just hurts as a spectator. And as an overall jungler, I probably don't know the full scale of the pain, but only looking at it, it's just painful to lose a Herald like that.
Oh, it hurts, I promise you. Slice will be feeling that one. He's going to want to get revenge. Maybe for an Invul Lotus side of he's actually good. No. Angry to lose. You see Draven tick up to 150 stacks. The execute on the Whirling Death is really starting to become deadly.
I think Lunar has a pretty good time in this game so far. Is slightly behind in gold compared to Deka. And of course, the Eclipse is a better single item power spike than the shield bow. Deka will want a lot more crit after this one, while Lunar basically says, "Yep, I have an Eclipse, I'm ready to fight, and if you're not ready, that's not my problem."
If Lunar is able to find a cash in the next 5 minutes, it could terms of power generating a bit of a lead. Lunar, as we mentioned, stacked with 150 stacks already, and yeah, Draven is very, very expensive.
Absolutely. Right now he's on almost 200 stacks of League of Draven, and that means...
Backed up by Lotus. And the Ocean Drake gonna be started here by Karolinerna. Invul Lotus gonna be looking for a steal in the same way that K5 took the Rift Herald off of them. Spectral Maw charged up, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes through. The Draven ult steals the Dragon, and Loftition's dove in. Hostile Takeover is gonna go wide, and Daka is getting bailed out, but can he survive? No. Loftition finding the only kill of the fight so far. Axe going wide, and the Akali should just escape with the aid of the Blast Cone. Invul Lotus take the kill. Invul Lotus take the Dragon. Draven not allowed his cash out, but does secure the objective for the team.
Yeah, if the jungler can't smite, the ADC has to, I guess. Yeah, Lunar is stealing that one away. A little bit lucky, of course, but in the end, when in doubt, look at the results, and the results are that the Dragon is on the side of Invul Lotus, thanks to Lunar. Really good move, has timed it perfectly, and that's going to boost his confidence.
Yeah, Loftition up to 2-0 on the play as well. Really going to get this Akali rolling. And if you're K5, you know, the last thing you want is an Akali that can throw herself into the backline and tear your teammates asunder.
Now it's going to be the interesting part of the game. It's all about trying to stabilize, trying not to give Invul Lotus another inch. If you're up 2-0 in Dragons, you have a comfy situation. Now you're basically dead even again in objectives, in Drakes as well. And there's a Draven just waiting to cash in.
Yeah, 236 stacks on that Adoration right now.
It's just a double-edged sword. On one hand, you want to keep the game slow. On the other hand, you want to deny Draven as much gold as possible, which is, of course, mainly possible through killing him and taking a lot of his stacks away. If the question is it going to be possible now? Is that something that the team of K5 should look for?
But you have to also bear in mind, it doesn't actually matter how many stacks Draven has, as long as he's not getting any kills. So
It's true.
You don't have to pay the Draven any attention as long as you don't die to it.
You're also now seeing first items completed. Yeah, 3 Trinity Forces on the top side, on top in jungle of K5, at the top lane of the Lotus. And the most important part for Invul Lotus will of course be getting Lona to his mythic item, getting Loftish to his mythic item, so they can make plays all across the board.
As we're going to see
Ronaldo's getting
Ronaldo diving forward onto Stardust under the turret. The Grandmaster's Might's popped, Slice in the area. But Citron going to look to turn this one around. The Ghost's going to get popped by the Jax, and now here comes the Counter-Strike. Citron is going to fall and taken over by Slice, and now it's a double kill on to the Jax. Ronaldo performing at his peak, baiting in on the dive, and Slice beautifully executed with the Heartbreaker, stealing the soul of the Olaf to put an axe through the back of his teammate.
Rule number one of playing against a Viego that has just completed his Blade of the Ruin King is that you don't fight a Viego who has just completed his Blade of the Ruin King. And that is, yeah, basically what backfired onto the team of K5 right now. The worst thing about it is that Ronaldo gets both kills.
And
Ronaldo
then first turret solo.
Also gets the first turret and has a 30 CS advantage over Starduster, which means that the Nor is basically out of the game and has to rely on his teamfight performance because those 2,000 gold that he's missing out on right now are just going to be used against him constantly.
Yeah, Ronaldo in a very, very good position to start to take over, really, as we are going to see the bot lane outer tower fall for Magic Pants and Daka here. Answering up the tower score 1-1.
If there's one man who has the potential to carry those fights for K5, now it is Daka. Magic Pants and Rotu have the setup to enable him, and Stardust with a good Nor, of course, has a chance to do so as well.
And I mean,
it's all down to Daka's positioning and how he's kept alive. Of course, the bailout is making that a lot easier, but in the end, it's all down to you die, Lona to backline dive that Lotus have to their disposal or not.
And I mean, throwing this back to the iconic Invul cast that you guys might not have actually heard because, you know, I can't stream apparently. K5 with a bit of a glacial comp here if we're talking TFT, the Ashe, the Olaf, and the Lissandra. Going to be keeping things very frosty in the team fights and hopefully going to be keeping the members of Invul Lotus pretty well locked up as we're going to see a teleport coming in from Ronaldo. Stardust also with the TP available, but the Narbar is running low. K5 going to get engaged on the teleports, come through a little bit late. Magic Pants in the bailout, but Loftition's wreaking havoc on the backline. Slice finds the first kill of the fight and it's a double kill for the Viego. Akali gets one as well, and Invul diving forward. Loftition finds a second, and it's 4-0 on the fight. Never mind that 4-1. Slice has fallen. Infernal Drake should be relatively easy picked up, but Lunar still no cash in.
A perfect timing to engage into that fight. Loftition, Slice, and Ronaldo have absolutely no issues to dive onto the backline of K5. And the timing is absolutely bad for K5 to take this fight because Stardust teleports in, doesn't have the Mega Bar to his disposal, has just returned to the Mega, so he's also not stacking any rage whatsoever, and that just backfired big time onto K5. I think he should have saved the teleport, just pushing somewhere on the side lanes. Now he just died, didn't get any value out of the team fight, didn't get an assist onto Slice. On the other hand, Lena, of course, didn't cash in.
366 adoration stacks on that Draven. If he gets a kill, expect the gold lead to skyrocket.
Yeah, basically, any kill that Lona gets now is a maximum level shutdown. He gets at least 1,000 gold out of that. And that's basically just an auto-win condition for the bot laner of Lona, of Invul Lotus.
Slice. Playing things a bit risky. Tagged up by the volley, and Chanticleer are going to come through as well. Starduster handshaked back into the team. And Slice taken out by the continual volleys. Survives for quite a while, you must say. But is eventually going to fall. Shut down over to the side of Daka. And that's the kind of play that K5 need to keep looking for.
It's nice to have, but it doesn't result into any objective claiming. Baron is still down for another minute 15 seconds. Herald isn't available, Dragon isn't available. It's nice to have that kill. Slice didn't have the Heartbreaker to his disposal, didn't have the flash, could not dodge that arrow. Taka has timed it perfectly. In the end, Roto teleporting in to just suggest to the team of Lotus to stay out of the fight or to die as well.
Yep.
And Lotus further disengaged, looking not to give up any resources and especially not any stacks of adoration on the Draven.
Definitely not. And just before that play all came through, I was going to highlight as the handshake connects onto Lunar. These teams really don't want me to make this point. I was just going to refer back to that Dragon team fight, and I thought Lofdician executed incredibly well in that team fight, managing to zone both the Lissandra and the Ashe to allow the remainder of his team to wreak havoc on the remaining members of K5s. We're going to see Ronaldo diving forward with the counter-strike. Boomerang going to slow that one up, though. Herald in the top lane, just chilling with Lofdician. Probably not going to get a charge off, but I guess they had to use it. 450 stacks of adoration on that Draven.
Yeah, the mini-wave is playing Killjoy right here. Of course, Herald has recently buffed to have a lot more health when summoned, and Ratu wouldn't have been able to kill that one alone. But of course, we all know Herald has a tendency to play with minions.
Yep.
And yeah, just loses a lot of pace, doesn't get out of charge. It's better than not using it at all, but you know, I'm pretty sure that Lotus have planned a lot more with that Herald.
Yeah, definitely. God, I want to see Lunar get a kill, just so that we can see the insane number that's going to pop up from the League of Draven, because he's just about to crest 500 stacks on that passive.
Yep, that's 1,250 gold
Now,
through the adoration alone.
excuse my, I'm not going to say stupidity, but it kind of is stupidity. Ignorance is probably a better word. How does the Draven stack scaling work with the execute threshold on the Whirling Death? Is it 1-to-1?
Second. It is 1-to-1.
It's 1-to-1, so anything under 500 health instantly dies if hit by Lunar's ultimate. Oh man.
It's probably speaking against me as an AD carry main, and against my awareness, but I didn't know that part of Green's ult existed.
I knew the stacks did something with the execute threshold. I couldn't remember exactly what. But then again, I'm just a play-by-play caster. I don't need to know things. I just need to get excited and shout every now and then. So, you know, c'est la vie. Karolinerna, though, setting up in the bot side river for this dragon. Ronaldo trying to make Stardust's life hell, as are the rest of Invul Lotus, as they seem to be preparing for a dive under this turret. Aganar comes through, Slice going to miss the Spectral Maw, and that will probably be the play called off. Lofdician grabbing the mid lane priority, as all of the members of Karolinerna are drawn up towards the top side. Ping's going down on the Baron, and you can't imagine that Karolinerna are going to look to start this.
I mean, if Invul Lotus didn't have any vision on that, it would probably be an easy sneak, because you see Invul Lotus are just recalling back to base, taking care of the items, trying to get to this infernal dragon somehow. Teleport is coming in from Ronaldo, and looking for a fight for a skirmish right here to try and deny this dragon from K5.
Yeah, Lofdician sneaking into the Karolinerna jungle here, looking for a bit of a flank on this Akali. Now, are Karolinerna going to be able to spot this out, or are they going to be able to find the fight before the flank does come through? Pushing forward as a 5-man unit, and Lofdician now round behind them. A beautiful scrying orb, though, spots out the Akali before it is too late. And it's just a little bit of trading back and forward. Both teams playing a little bit of dodgeball here in the bot lane river. Skill shots being thrown out, going wide. And the dragon is now aggroed onto by Karolinerna, but it's going to be Invul Lotus that are the first team to really start hitting it. Starduster nearly full on the Narbar as well. We mentioned it in the previous fight how he would just about run out. But it's good to see him starting to stack that one up before the fight kicks off. And Rotiu going to get jumped on now by Ronaldo. Flash forward from Slice, and Rotiu not quite going to fall, just about dodging away from the Whirling Death. The Loftician in, bailout onto the Lissandra, but the Lissandra will fall. Viego quickly after, and it's a 2-for-2 on the team fight to begin with. A massive stun from Stardust. And Lunar gets his cash in, 1,500 gold, followed by a double. Loftician finalizing the fight, and it's 5-for-2, and another dragon for Invul Lotus.
1,730 gold he got from that kill. That's half an Infinity Edge.
My
That's
word.
literally half of one of the most expensive items in the entire game. Lunar making an investment into his future right here as he stacks and stacks and stacks up the adoration, and now it has paid off. And he's gonna come back with 3 items to his disposal.
That is one hell of an investment into your future coming through from the Draven. Who needs futures market when I can stack my axes? 3 items completed for the Invul Lotus ADC. Half an item now ahead of Daka, who he has been trailing all game. Loftician completing his Zhonya's Hourglass, picking up a needlessly large rod as well. And Invul Lotus seemingly in full control of this first game.
Yeah, you mentioned that he was barely trailing Daka all game. He didn't get any cash-ins whatsoever. Now he got 2 of them in one fight, and he's 2,000 gold ahead. Just Draven things, you know.
Welcome to the League of Draven, ladies and gentlemen. Lunar primed and ready to take over.
Another guy who's about to take over is, of course, Ronaldo. He's also 2,000 gold ahead of his lane opponent of Starduster. And Starduster really has a difficult game at his hands. Has 2 items now, he has some defensive value, and he's still a big threat in those team fights. But I doubt he's gonna be able to hold the Jax in the side lane any longer. And as the game progresses, as Ronaldo gets more items onto his hands, this is gonna get worse and worse.
Yeah, you would imagine it will get progressively more and more difficult. Karolinerna, though, looking to potentially force this. Aurelia's popped by Marcusa to get himself and Slice out to safety. And Starduster and Ronaldo trading back and forth. The Mega Gnar going to be forced out. And Ronaldo just having some fun at this point, you have to imagine. Going to get chipped away a little bit more by the Gnar, losing the extended trade. But in the trade of ultimates, it is definitely advantage Jax.
Definitely so. You also got to mention that Ronaldo has taken 3 turret shots in the trade. The whole breaker just amplifies him a lot. Gonna check the resistances he gets right now. Yep, 51 armor magic resist. There is absolutely nothing Stargazer can do. He's not gonna damage that Jax anytime soon. I mean, turret doing a lot of work, keeping it safe, but it's really difficult to deal with this Jax right now.
Yeah, like you say, unless Ronaldo tries to fight Starduster under a tower, there isn't really that much hope for the Gnar. And if Starduster gets caught out under a turret in mini Gnar, you imagine Ronaldo might even be able to finish the solo kill there and then.
Absolutely. One thing that I'm surprised about, though, is how Slice hasn't been able to amplify his gold lead over Citron. Of course, he doesn't have the global gold advantage because turrets are still kind of even, which is really good in K5's part so far. But he also wasn't able to get his ES lead. In fact, he's 30 CS down, has the 3 kills, which are still helping him keep up in the gold. But Citron is doing quite a good job so far to keep up with Diego, which is something that I did not necessarily expect, especially with Lotus being ahead at this point of time.
Definitely. Adoration check-in again, ladies and gentlemen. Lunar back up to 150 stacks, so he's got one big cash-in. He's already looking for his next. Really trying to rack up as many stacks of the League of Draven as he possibly can. Dragon Soul going to be open here for Invul Lotus in the next minute as well. So if he can really, really push those Adoration stacks, get that execute threshold as large as possible for the incoming fight, he could be an absolute menace.
I'm quite certain if Lona gets another cash in the next team fight, he's probably up to full build.
Yeah,
He's
nearly a full Infinity Edge in inventory.
He's currently working on it. He needs about 1,000 gold more to finish the Infinity Edge, and that's just about the timestamp where the Draven is absolutely taking off Daka behind in the dirt.
Yeah.
But that's not the time that he gets until the next dragon spawns. 20 seconds to go. He's not gonna have his Infinity Edge completed
But
while Daka already
it
has.
is Invul Lotus in full control of the bot side river. K5 though turning onto the Baron, sweeping out the wards. So Invul Lotus are aware this is happening. The Scryer's orb comes through as well, and it's gonna just be zoned off. But you have to say it's the right idea from K5. They've got to look for something as the handshake connects onto Ronaldo. Counter-Strike, though, blocks so much damage. The Karma shielding comes through, and look at how tanky that Jax is. Surviving 4 champions at once as Karolinerna turning back onto the Baron here. They know all 5 members of Invul have moved down to secure this dragon, and we could see a Dragon Soul for Baron trade.
That would be an absolute genius move. There's absolutely nothing in Lotus
Invul
can
have no
do
idea.
about this Baron. And there's a teleport
Yeah,
coming
Baron
in
secured
from Ronaldo.
for Karolinerna, and Invul Lotus just with a Dragon Soul. Optician and co going to try and find some exit kills, going to try and take away some of these Baron buffs, but very, very nicely executed there from Karolinerna. Oh, Rotu's going to be caught out in the jungle, though, and Loftician on a mission. Pops the Zhonya's for Ronaldo to find the kill, setting up his top laner. Citron and Stardust are now in trouble as well. Stardust are going to get away with the flash, and it's a double kill for the Jax in the top lane. Top lane inner tower likely to fall here as well. And Invul Lotus blowing the game wide open. But that's a huge hostile takeover onto 3. Ronaldo and Marcusa coming under serious fire, and the Karma's going to fall. Loftician dashing away with the Shuriken flip, goes back in with his top laner as Ronaldo finds the counter-strike, but he can't quite find any lethal blows. Magic Pant's going to fall, and it's on Loftician to try and escape, but he is shut down by the Gnar. Meanwhile, Lunar shoving in the mid lane, trying to just get as much as he can, finds the mid lane in Hib Tower, and the bloodshed we are getting in this game is amazing.
Yeah, if Lunar is participating in the top lane fight, it's of course going to be a lot worse for K5. But you gotta admire the absolute genius move that they have pulled off right here. They are starting up the Baron, dragging Invul Lotus away from the dragon, and just wasting enough of Invul Lotus's time that they can just force the Baron for absolutely free. Of course, it all backfires when they stick around the top side for too long and they give away a few kills. But on the other hand, Invul Lotus are also overextending, giving away the lives of literally everyone except for Lunar.
Nearly 300 stacks racked back up on the...
Important to know, because he's gonna cash in again. But you gotta admit that this fight has paid off really well for K5 in this specific situation. The gold advantage
definitely
is not necessarily...
Oh, Citron could be in trouble. Spectral Maw going to go wide, though, and the fight is going to be engaged. Chance Crystallara sails through the goalposts, and Daka is the target, but Slice is the first to fall. Loftician finds the Ashe, and Lunar is whirling, whirling, whirling. Can he find a cash-in? No, wait, no, did he? Yes, he can. Gets the shutdown on the Gnar as well, flashing forward onto the Renata, and that's going to be 4. 1 in reply, only Rotu to survive on the side of Karolinerna, and Invul potentially looking to close this game out.
Slice is frontlining and paying the price for it. He's the only one who does so, because the rest of Invul Lotus is just playing the absolute cleanest game of their lives. Loftician, absolutely no issues at diving anywhere. Lunar.
Rotu is going to get picked up to end off the game, and Invul Lotus moving to 1-0 match point in this series. Is only a best of 3, unfortunately. I'm sure everyone would love to see this as a best of 5. I certainly would, especially with the stakes that we have online. But we are here for Lotus 1-0 up, and they are then welcome League.
There's absolutely nothing else to say. Gotta state it as it is. Lona's Draven pick has definitely paid off, but you gotta look at someone else as well. I think Loftition has done the absolute greatest job in this game that he could do. The Akali has been volatile from start to finish, has been held down in lane a little bit by the Sandra pick of Roto, but there's absolutely nothing they could do about him in the later stages of the game. He has played team fights absolutely perfectly, and the only mistake that I have seen in the entire game was the overextension on the top lane in the later stages when the Baron buff was on the hands of K5. Loftition has done a really great job and is my MVP for this game.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really solid, solid played game. I can't speak. Apparently, that game has just melted my brain. But yeah, Loftition really finding the angles, finding the flanks of just destiny in that game, being able to tear these team fights apart and navigating his way through into K5 backline.